Yeah, you are welcome back. So let's continue from where we stopped. I stopped at the first feature of characteristics I gave you, and that is what? Breaking away or rejection of the traditional forms of writing. And then I have told you that the modernist writer broke away from the conventional or the traditional plot structure where writers wrote from the beginning to the middle to the end. Modernist writers do not write like that. Then number two, breaking away from poetic roots. This is about poetry itself. Now, you agree with me that the conventional way of writing poems by writers, they make use of rhythm and rhyme, right? You know, rhythm, rhyme scheme, A B A B A B or A B A B C C D D, something like that. Remember sonnet, 14-line poem where you have A B A B C D C D and stuff like that, where you find two lines rhyming the end of two lines rhyming the same, right? So these are rules that are used when you're writing poems. These are patterns of writing poems. But during the modernist era, the modernist writer forgot those rules. They had nothing to do with those rules. And I've explained the reason why they choose to do that. Because they believed that the world has become disconnected, the world has become chaotic. So their writings then should also reflect that disconnection, that confusion, that disorderliness. And that is why the modernist writers, whenever they write poems, they write in free verse. No two lines rhyme together. So you cannot read a modern poem and you start doing the rhyme scheme. If you're not careful, you're going to number from A to Z because they don't write using rhyme scheme. They don't give attention to that musical element in poems. They don't care. So that is another rule that they rejected during the modernist period. Another one is that they rejected the perfection of heroes. The perfection of heroes. Now, before the modern era, writers display or portray heroes as perfect. Heroes are usually flawless. Heroes are usually perfect. But during the modern eras, the modernist writer portray heroes as weak, imperfect, ordinary, and confused people. Are you getting it? They forgot, they rejected, they broke away from how heroes in stories are presented. It is due to the same reason. The reason is that the world has become disconnected, the world has become disordered. So, they rejected all the traditional forms of writing style. Moving on, the modernist writer chose ambiguity over clarity. I have said it the other time. When you read modernist literary works, it leaves you confused. It leaves you asking questions. They are not clear. They are not clear. Ambiguity over clarity is a feature of the modernist writing style. Moving on, I want to go to number two now. Number two feature of the modernist era, and that is isolation and alienation. Isolation and alienation. Now, these two words they are not the same, they are different. Isolation is that is feeling lonely, right? Feeling lonely, being alone. Alienation is that feeling of not belonging to a particular environment. I think I already explained these two in the introduction, where we explain again. Now, I said this is another feature of modernist literature. People were isolated. They isolated themselves, not that they were isolated. People isolated themselves. Why? Because they do not trust anybody again. They don't trust the government, they don't trust their neighbors, they don't trust the religious leaders anymore. They just want to be alone because of what the world has become. Now, I talked about migration the other time, where people are moving from rural areas to urban areas. Now, in the villages, people know themselves, right? They relate to one another, they live in unity. But because of advancement in science and technology, people start moving from local areas to cities. So those who remain at the local areas, they feel isolated, they are isolated, right? Then those who went to the urban areas, to the cities, what happened was that the cities became crowded. Too many people in the cities, that people start seeing themselves not to belong to, the group of people there. Even though they are surrounded by people, yet they feel not belonging. That connection between people is no more there. The connection is not, the people are not connected. And that's what fragmentation. There was fragmentation in the word. Fragment. When we talk about fragment is what? Pieces. If a glass of cup falls down from your hand, it is going to break into pieces. If you now pick up a piece, a broken glass, right? That is a fragment. So fragment is part of the whole. So that was exactly what the word then was. There was fragmentation. Everything has broken into pieces. People don't understand each other anymore. Do you get it? So there was isolation and alienation. People cannot relate with one another the way they used to before the modernist era rather. People feel disconnected. People feel disconnected. The connection is not there anymore. So isolation and alienation is another feature or characteristics of the modern era. Number 3 characteristics is what? Religious beliefs were questioned. Religious beliefs were questioned. Now, what happened? Why were religious beliefs questioned? Before the modernist era, people give high value for religious beliefs and religious leaders. But the moment the world became chaotic, the moment the world became disconnected, the moment there was destruction, killings, bloodshed, people started questioning religious beliefs. I said the other time that people were like, do God, does God actually exist? They tell us that God is good. They tell us that God is benevolent. Is God actually benevolent? Is God actually good? If God is benevolent, should he watch people that he created? Should he watch them die in agony? Should he watch them being killed by the same people he created? Why didn't he intervene? Why didn't he stop the destruction of lives? Not only that, scientific advancement also questioned religious beliefs. People started being told that human beings are created from natural processes. When we were in school too, in science-related subjects, they will tell us that human being came from ape, that it was not God that created it was not God that created human being, that we all came from ape. Our forefathers were apes. So there's no being anywhere that created human being. We are just a product of what? Of nature. Scientific advancement. There were proofs that this is this and that is that. The moon, the sun, the thunder and stuff like that, God did not create them. I've heard someone said this before, that God really does not exist. Then another person told him that if God does not exist, then who commands the sun to come out in the day and the moon to come out at night? Then the other person replied again that it is just a natural phenomenon. There's no one behind it. That science has said it and science has proved it that whatever you do for 21 days straight becomes part of you naturally. Sorry about that. That whatever you do for 10 days straight, 21 days straight becomes part of you. On the 22nd day, even if you don't want to do it, you will find yourself doing it. So the person was not like, now imagine that the sun has been coming out during the day for millions of years ago. The moon has been coming out in the night for uncountable years ago. So, who told you that it is not a natural phenomenon? So, science brought in its own philosophy, and people started believing it. It started, changing humans' mindset towards religion. People started questioning religious beliefs. There were some of these modernist writers that were atheists actually, but not all of them. There were still some of them that still believed in God. But there was this kind of separation. There's this division. So science questioned religious beliefs. And take note, we are going to be observing all of these points the moment we start to go through the recommended text. I'm going to be analyzing them with you, and I'm going to be reminding you that, do you remember that this is one of the features of modernist era? Do you remember this is one of the features of the modernist literature? So all of these things are what the modernist writers deployed in their writings. Now, let's move on. Number 4 characteristics of the modernist era is delusionment and pessimism. Delusionment and pessimism. Do you know what pessimism means? From the word to be pessimistic. A pessimist, to be pessimistic, pessimism. That is the feeling of something bad is going to happen. Opposite of optimistic, to be optimistic, or optimism. If someone is optimistic in everything the person does, you are going to say that this person has vision for what? Good things. If something just happened now, if that person is going to think about what just happened, is going to think in a good way. But some people that anything that happened, the first thing they're going to say is that there's no hope. This thing cannot work. Something bad will happen. Those people are pessimistic. So during the modern era, people became pessimistic. People lost hope. People lost hope. There was fear of the future. People do not know what the future will bring. Remember I told you that the First World War came first. Then, after like 10 years, the Second World War came again. So when the Second World War came, people lost hope. People were like, we don't think this world is going to get better. I think this is how chaos and disorderliness is going to continue in the universe. And this modernist writer wrote with that mentality too. And that is why many of them, when they write, the endings of their literary works are usually pessimistic. They don't end their literary works on a good note. They don't end on a hopeful note. There's no hope. Are you getting it? So, many modern writers expressed disappointment with society and humanity. They became pessimistic. They doubt if there's going to be hope. They are afraid of the future. And when they write, they showed this in their works. When we begin to read The Lord of the Flies, I will point out this element to you from that novel. So, the last one I'm going to, I have 2 more here. Stream of consciousness. Stream of consciousness. It is another feature or characteristics of what? Of the modern era. Stream of consciousness. Now, in literature, what is the stream of consciousness? Okay, stream of consciousness is a literary technique that presents a character's thoughts, feelings, memories, and impressions exactly as they occur in their mind. I'll take it again because of you that you're writing down. Stream of consciousness is a literary technique that presents a character's thoughts, a character's feeling, a character's memories, a character's impression exactly as they occur in their mind. So when there's a shift, okay, when there's a shift between, yeah, exactly, when there's a shift from what a character does or what a character say and what a character think, then we have stream of consciousness. Okay, let me give an example for you to understand. As you're watching this video now, you might be thinking a lot of things in your mind. You might be like, maybe when this video ends, I'm going to go and prepare a ban or a goosey. Wait, tomorrow is Sunday. I think I want to take something for my pastor. Wait, next week is. I think I have test next week too. Oh, June has almost ended though. Thinking of different things at a time. And those things you are thinking are not related. They are disjointed. It happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. That is stream of consciousness. So, modernist writer move away from focusing on the actions that a character in their literary works perform to focusing on what the character thinks in his mind. I will say that again. Modernist writer focuses on what their characters think in the mind. And that is what happened in real life too. Like I told you that people do not believe in other again. People don't believe in other people. That's why they became isolated. They want to be on their own. People do not believe in the government. They don't believe in religious leaders. They don't believe in other people, their neighbors anymore. Because of what happened during the world wars. People showed cruelty. People showed wickedness, killing other people. So they believed that wickedness is not out there in the society. Wickedness is in the mind of each and every one of us. There's cruelty in everybody. That was the mentality people had then. They believe that everything that we do, everything that we see comes from where? Comes from our mind. And that's why the Yorubas will say that if you teach someone to do evil, you don't teach people to do evil. Someone who is taught to do evil and he does it, there's evil in his mind already. There's evil in his mind already. That person himself is an evil person before. Because if you're not an evil person, nobody will tell you to kill your neighbor and you go straight to kill that neighbor. So, because of what happened during that time, people believed that there is evil within everybody. Every human being is a bearer, moving evil. We are all moving evil. So, modernist writers focus on the mind, what their characters think. And by the time we start going through this recommended text, we are going to realize that as well. Stream of consciousness. You are going to find modernist writer, focusing on what their characters are thinking about in their mind, not necessarily what they do or say. And moving on to the last point of today, use of imagery and symbolism. That is another very important feature of modern era of literature. Writers make use of imageries and symbols a lot. So, in their poems, in their drama text, in their novels, there are objects that stands for a lot of things entirely. You see objects, you see actions, you see places that that they have inherent meaning. They are symbols. They stand for another thing entirely. So they make use of symbols a lot. They make use of symbols a lot. And that is why the job is on the reader to interpret meaning themselves. They do not go straight because the meaning are not connected. So it is the reader that is going to be finding the meaning himself or herself. So if these two video lectures do not present this course to you enough in a way that it's simple, no problem. By the time we begin analysis of poem, we are still coming back to all these elements we have mentioned. We will start using these characteristics to analyze those books, those poems, those drama texts, those novels. I'm going to be stopping here today. In the next video lecture, I would love to start, okay, we are going to meet in the physical class before the next video lecture. So in the physical class, we'll meet, we'll discuss better. But very soon, we are going to start analysis of this recommended text. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.